Hi there, Natalie. My name is Ellen, and I'll be correcting this essay for you today. Let's take a look at what you have written here. Many governments think that economic progress is the most important goal. Some people, however, think that other types of progress are equally important. Discuss both these views. Okay, great. Let's see what you had to say about this. To succeed in today's society, many people believe that economic progress is the main goal. In my opinion, the economic system plays an important role, but so does education. Okay, really good grammar here. I like this construction here. So does education. That's lovely. I kind of wanted you to change the language around here a little bit. Look at this. Economic progress is the main goal. Economic progress is the most important goal. It's so similar that the examiner is going to say, it's not really changing around the language. I mean, just changing around the most important to the main is not changing around language. So that is going to be kind of viewed negatively. Okay, so the rest of it is lovely. Let's see what you wrote. The wealth of a country depends on their economic progress. Well, okay, so a country on its economic progress. For instance, Germany is one of the richest countries in the world and has the highest GDP. It's not grass, it's gross, okay? Which leads to less unemployment. Moreover, the citizens are happier and wealthier compared to countries with a smaller GDP. Because of this case, no, how about this? Because of this, comma, people spend more money, which has a positive effect on the economy again, and furthermore on the government. Okay, so a why here. Now, I'm not really entirely clear about why, because it affects the economy, it also affects the government. It might seem obvious to you and to a lot of people, but you should still really just lay it out for us. Like, how does one affect the other? So, if you're thinking that, well, if the economy is going well, then the government gets more money in taxes from the economy, from the businesses, then spell it out for us because maybe you're thinking of something completely different. All right. So it's a matter of supporting and explaining all of your ideas. All right. So, but should economic progress be the only goal to reach? All right. Now, what you did here is kind of risky. Um, Kind of grammar purists will tell you not to start a sentence or a question with but. Okay. Do we do this all the time in regular speech and in writing online? Yeah, of course we do. We do it all the time. However, since this is an English language exam, and you probably will get some people who are sticklers for grammar rules, maybe some that kind of seem outdated as well. Try to avoid this kind of structure. All right. You could have said yet. That would have been a decent way to start this, okay, rather than but. So avoid but in the beginning of sentences or questions. This was a nice kind of technique to use, switching sides by introducing a question. But again, my only concern is regarding the use of the word but. So, yet, should economic progress be the only goal to reach? The Swedish government put their main focus on the education of their citizens. Young adults get paid to go to school after they reach their 18th. You need a TH here. All right, and lowercase b, and can attend universities for free. This support should help young adults to figure out what they want without any pressure. A study showed that the government benefits from this education system because there are fewer people who need financial help from the government in the future. Not on the contrary. A lot of people love to use on the contrary like this, but I'm afraid it's incorrect. You want to use in contrast. Okay, so look and find out what the difference is between on the contrary and in contrast, and which is used in what cases. Another important type, you're missing an E here, of progress is the health system. Despite the good economy, we don't say despite of, we say in spite of, or despite plus noun. So despite the good economy in Western countries, more citizens suffer from heart, careful with your spelling, diseases than, careful with your spelling here. In other countries, this could be due to fewer activities. All right, this for me really feels irrelevant. I would not have included this paragraph at all. Doesn't help you. You didn't talk about it in your introduction. You just said, yes, economy, but also education. So this whole thing of the health system, I think, has no place here. Just get rid of it, stick to a 4-paragraph structure instead. To sum up, economic progress is a big field that the government should focus on, but it should not be the only one. Otherwise, mental and physical problems will become bigger. Okay, so this is a new idea that you're introducing here, this whole thing about mental and physical problems. Did you, well, I guess you mentioned them here, but I already told you that I think this paragraph should be removed. The reason I'm pointing this out is because I don't want you to introduce any new elements in your conclusion. It's just a reiteration of the main point. So this sentence was good, but rather than mental and physical problems, you should have mentioned something about education. So to sum up, economic progress is a big field that the government should focus on, but it should not be the only one. Education will lead to a society that is happier and stronger and better poised for the future. So that would have been a really nice kind of way to end this. And it really links back to the body paragraphs that you wrote. So Natalie, I thought this was a really lovely task too. I thought you did a great job of it. Really good grammar, really good vocabulary. A lot of this is really, really strong. I don't know if you mentioned in your email what score you need, but I think this is off to a great start. I would like to see what your writing looks like after you kind of apply some of the things we've talked about. Take a look at your task 1 now. The graph illustrates the percentage of how much paper, glass containers, aluminum cans, and plastic was recycled. Get rid of this. First of all, we don't spell it like that, but it's also the wrong tense here. Between 1982 and 2010, whereas the percentage of paper that was recycled fell, the percentage of the other materials increased. Now, why did I change your tenses here? Because this is all in the past. It's 1982 to 2010, so there's no reason to be using present tenses in here anywhere, okay? All right, so let's continue. Well, the paper fell. Let's see where paper is. Okay. Okay. The percentage of other materials increased. Well, that's partially true. If you look at where paper began and where paper ended, it from the beginning to the end, it increased. Yes, there was a peak after which it decreased, but if you look at it in a kind of holistic sense, throughout the period, it increased slightly. The reason I'm mentioning that is that this isn't entirely accurate, okay? So again, if you're talking about from this point in time on, yes, it decreased. But if you're looking at the whole thing from 1982 to 2010, it isn't accurate to say that paper decreased. Okay? All right, let's continue. Well, now, before we do, let me give you another suggestion about what you could have said. You could have said, despite different trajectories over the period in question, on the whole, all 4 materials found their recycling rates increase. So that would have been, for me at least, more accurate here. Okay? So in 1982, paper and cardboard were the most recycled materials. They were 60 times, no, they were recycled 60 times more in 1988 compared to plastic. Okay. What's going on to 1988? All right, fine. Okay, interesting. It had his peak in 1992 and decreased slightly since then. All right, now I'm confused. Are you talking about plastic? Or are you talking about paper? I don't know. And it's not a his. It's not. We don't give gender to inanimate objects in English, so it should just be it had its peak in 1992 and decreased slightly since then. Aluminum cans started to get recycled in 1984 and rose here significantly since then, while plastic and glass containers flowed consistently. Okay. In 2010, paper and cardboard were still the most recycled materials, although aluminum cans showed a higher increase. All right. It can be no, don't forecast. You don't want to mention anything that is not in this graph. You only want to report on the things that you see. So if it stops in 2010, your reporting should stop in 2010. All right. So let's talk about this a little bit. You had quite a few data points here. You had 4 categories. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 years. Okay. So it's quite a bit there that you had to talk about. Obviously, you don't have to talk about all of them, and you should not talk about all of them, but some points are more important than others. So let's talk about what you could have done here. I was fine with this. It was fine. I do want to recommend to you that when you present your overview, use a good signpost to show us that you're talking about your overview. Really just use the word overall and you're fine. Okay, so overall, whereas the percentage of paper recycled fell, the percentage of other materials increased. I already told you I disagreed with that information, but just to show you that I want you to use the word overall so the examiner knows, okay, this is the overview. It's there, and that's fine. Okay? So that's the first thing. I thought that your selection of information here could have been a little better. Again, not mentioning every single point, but I would have said something like just grouping information. Paper and cardboard began at 65. And remained relatively stable until whatever this year is. What is that? 1990, perhaps? Okay. After this, it jumped to its highest peak in 1994 at 80 and slightly declined to reach 70 in 2010. So then you could say glass containers started slightly lower at 50. Dropping to 40 in 1990, only to rise again to 60 by 2010. Done. Okay? Then you could say the biggest increase was seen by aluminum cans. They began to be recycled. They began being recycled in 1984 and had a steady rise throughout the period, ending in 2010 at 45. Okay, and then you can say the most stable and lowest figure was found for plastics. It remained under 10 throughout the period and began recycling in 1990. So that's kind of how I would have done this. You can see that I'm giving you a general sense about this data, not giving you too many unnecessary details, but focusing on some things that are important. Okay, so I thought a lot of this was good. I definitely liked your task 2. I thought your task 1 needed some work. And so for that reason, I definitely want to encourage you to continue working with us, sending us in more of your essays so we can help you, especially, like I said, with task 1, which seems to be the weaker spot here. So take a look at the different ways to work with us, see which one suits you best, and I hope we can continue helping you along your IELTS journey. Okay, thanks so much for sending this in. Good luck.